Hello everybody, this is HG Shaves here. I'm back with another video. Really glad to be with you here this afternoon, and I hope this video finds you well and in good spirits. So first of all, thank you to everybody who reached out to, I guess wish me well in my recovery with the whole COVID thing. I'm pretty much back to 100% now, and yeah, I'm thankful that I didn't really ever have any major symptoms. They're all pretty mild. And certainly that I got to keep my sense of smell and taste and those kinds of things made the whole process a little bit more tolerable, let's say. So today we're going to be using some old favorites as well as something that's new to me. So let's start with that. And that is the Henson aluminum razor. This is the mild variation. You can tell whether it's mild or medium based on the plus signs. So maybe you'll be able to see, probably not. There's basically a plus sign on the inside of the cap and the plate, and that tells you if it's just one, then it's mild. If it's two, then it's medium. And I believe the aggressive and titanium might even be 3 plus signs. So that's something. So made in Canada, aluminum construction. I believe some part of the threads have tungsten, which is kind of cool. And I'm thankful to my friend who sent this out for me to try. I know I'm a little bit late to the game on this, but always happy to try a new razor, especially one made in Canada, because they really do a good job with razors up there. Starting with the higher end ones like Wolfman and Carve, and then the more affordable options like Henson and even Razor Rock, right? I think those are kind of made in China, but at least they're designed in Canada, right? Anyway, let's go ahead and load the razor, and let's use a fresh Bolzano. I'm just going to get it out of the packaging here, and then I'll show it to you. Always nice to see a brand new blade before it gets all gunked up, if you will. And here is the Bolzano. And then let's go ahead. And this one's a normal kind of loading situation. You put the blade on the cap first, then you grab the plate. Everything fits very snugly. There's no blade overhang to worry about, if that's important to you. And then we'll just go ahead and tighten this down. The threading feels very good for, I think this razor is now 60 or 70 bucks. I kind of forget. They raised the price somewhat recently. And of course, the thing that people talk about with this razor always is the unique kind of head geometry, head design. It just really kind of locks in the angle for you, and it's certainly one of the more kind of angular razor heads I've ever used. But we'll talk more about that as we go. For the brush, just going to let some water out. We're going to be using my old Decoration Grooming B3 Washington. Decided to use this because I wanted a little bit of scrub. And for the soap and splash today, we'll be using Australian Private Preserve Raconteur. I told myself I was going to use these wonderful, deep, rich APR scents once the weather got cold. And it's been cold for a couple months now, and I've been slacking on using these. So I've got a couple others I want to use, so maybe I'll stagger them like every other week over the next couple months till I get through all of them. And yeah, this is a deep, rich leather, musk, whiskey, coffee kind of scent. There's just something beautiful about all these notes all put together. It's funny, leather on its own is sometimes a little bit cloying to me, but in this context, it's wonderful. So let's just go ahead and start loading the brush here. If you don't like these tubs because they have, the weird kind of lip on the inside of them that can make it a little bit difficult to load your brush, I would highly encourage you to transfer your soap and the labels to a tub that you like more. I've seen multiple people do that, and yeah, you can transfer those labels a little bit more easily than you might think. So if this doesn't make you happy, well, consider moving it to something else. I'm just going to go ahead and get a good heavy load. Started with a kind of wet brush because I haven't used this soap in a long time, and so when you whip out the soap for the first time, you need to make sure that you really load for a good amount of time, just because it hasn't been used in a while, so it makes it more difficult to pick up soap, but it's not anything crazy. This knot is interesting because I've used it probably 50 or so times, and I never had an issue with shedding in the beginning. And then now it seems I lose a couple hairs every kind of couple shaves. So I'm not sure what that's about. And wow, it looks like I finally just can see the bottom of this tub. So that's always exciting. Getting closer to the end. So I'm just gonna put some warm water, and then let's start the face lather with the B3 and Raconteur. So I hope everybody had a good couple holidays, good new year, things of that nature. My plans, of course, got a little bit disrupted thanks to my illness, but sort of threw a curveball and ended up changing plans a little bit, but still got to celebrate with some close friends. Yeah, it was Christmas and New Year that I'll certainly never forget, for better or for worse. So, hope you all had a couple nice days as well. And a preview of coming attractions. Let's see if I can do this without dropping the thing. The Feather DX folding razor. A friend of mine sent me that, and I've been practicing with it for a couple weeks, and I think maybe next week I will feel confident enough to do a video with it. So be on the lookout for that if you're interested. You know, those Feather artist clip razors I think can be a little bit rough for some people. If you start off with like the Feather Pro blades, for example. But my friend recommended I get some guard blades, and you know, they literally have a guard on the edge, and that can kind of save you in the beginning. So like I said, I've been using that for a couple weeks, and I haven't really had any major injuries, but who knows, maybe all the injuries will come out when I make my video. So this is a pretty easy tallow-based soap to lather, so I'm going to keep adding water, and then I'll bring you when I'm about to start my first pass. You know, I must say that this ended up being a really excellent brush. In the beginning, it was a little bit stiff and kind of scrubby, but you know, after using it 50 times, it softened up a bit. And I do agree with those people when they talk about the B3 batch from Declaration Grooming that, you know, it gets a lot of hate sometimes, and it's certainly sort of an infamous batch. However, if that were the only batch that Scott ever released, people would say that it's a great batch, because it is. It's just a little bit more scrubby than the rest of his batches, especially, you know, the super jelly ones that people seem to really like. So anyway, that's an excellent brush and might be my favorite badger in my collection, honestly. So I'm just going to warm up the razor and the blade here. Again, the Henson aluminum, this is the mild version, and I'm using a fresh Bolzano blade in there. So let's start. So with this razor, the angle is very specific. It's not quite riding the cap, it's not quite riding the guard. It really is somewhere kind of in the middle. I think the Geo Fat Boy razor tutorials would help you with this one, and that you just start flat and then you tilt slightly up, and that really is the angle. So let's see if I found it. Yep, that's it. I got 2 days growth, as usual for these videos. And a couple of interesting thoughts about this razor. One of my friends who has good experience with this razor, he was saying that it really feels like using a single blade cartridge in a sense of just the way the head geometry is. Not that you have to treat it like a cartridge and really press down but just the way it looks and feels really reminds him of a single blade cartridge. I never really used single blade cartridges. I was always on the multi blade thing, so I can't really compare. And then another interesting thought I heard related to this today is that it's no doubt that Henson has some really good advertising, right? And they're definitely not trying to appeal to the hobbyist wood shavers like us, probably. And they're trying to get, more normal people who maybe this is the first safety razor that they ever try. And so because of that, that friend was saying how this is intentionally, supposed to remind people of a cartridge so that it's not so intimidating to use a safety razor that looks, vastly different to a cartridge, if that makes sense. And he also argued that perhaps that's, part of the design intentionally too, is that you can push down a little bit and not get as wrecked as you would if you were using some other kind of safety razor. And so for me, I think there's always that temptation with light razors, whether they're plastic or aluminum or whatever. There's always that temptation that you want to push down because there's just not enough weight in the razor to, let the razor do the work. So I think the first couple times I used this razor this week, I was a little bit tempted to push down, but now I don't feel the need. Now that I've really figured out the angle to this razor. Ooh, I just got myself. I jinxed. Sorry about that. Maybe as I said that, I pushed down. That would be funny. I'm not sure about this. I don't know if this is an old spot. Anyway, I don't feel the need to push down with this razor now. It is mild, but if you find the angle, I don't think you need to push down. And maybe here's our evidence of that. Okay, I'm going to rinse and then come back in for pass number 2 in just a moment. Stay tuned. Pass number 2. Let's do pass number 2 now with the Henson aluminum. Excuse my drain there. And so yeah, this is definitely a mild razor, but once you find the angle, it's plenty efficient. If you can't find the angle, then I could see where this might be frustratingly mild to some, but just after a couple days of practice with this, I found it to be pretty user-friendly. Looks like we got a badger hair in there. That's always nice. Some people are a little bit concerned about clogging with this razor, and I could maybe see that if you were, mowing down a beard and you had a kind of a pasty lather. I could see where this thing would clog. But for me, I'm just rinsing it in a bowl of water here, and I don't really have any issues. Let's talk about the soap for a moment. This is APR's V2 base which I think ultimately ended up being the last base that they made under their own name. You know, they released stuff with other soapers, so that was always in, you know, the soapers base, if you will. But yeah, this is a perfectly serviceable base. There's nothing crazy exciting about it, but it's certainly a good soap base, you know. Okay, good. Second pass done. I'll rinse and come back in for pass number 3. Just a second. Here's our third and final pass. Okay, and here's the final third pass with the Henson aluminum and the Bolzano. So this soap scent, I am a big fan. In 2019, this was my scent of the year, actually. I have the Splash and also the EDT, Eau de Toilette. It's kind of like tobacco, where it's very strong. So if you don't like it, then you're probably going to hate it because it's just so strong. Like in the soap and the Splash, basically in every format. So keep that in mind. However, if you do like it, you can just really kind of bathe in the scent, if you will. It's strong, but very pleasant, in my opinion. This one is probably one of the easier APR scents to find nowadays on the used market. There was some old stock of it that was found, and I remember the razor company had some of this for sale, maybe as recently as like in the past year or so. And so yeah, you can still find this if you're looking for it, you know. I'm starting to think that the fresh blade actually is what's hurting me. Then I should have stayed with my one that had 5 or 6 uses on it. So far, you know, the Bolzanos have worked well for me in basically every razor I've tried them in. Man. But this one just feels like it's got a serious kind of burr on the edge of the blade. It feels like it needs to be kind of worn off. And if you all watch my videos, you know I don't have this much of a hackathon very often. So maybe it was the blade. Which, again, just goes to show you that any mild razor like this can be elevated to a, you know, higher status, if you will, with the right kind of blade, or wrong kind of blade, maybe in this case. Okay, just feeling around, and it was a very close shave, possibly too close. And let's use a little alum today. That's not something I usually do, but again, after this hackathon today, seems like we should. So I'm just going to rinse off cold water, which is what I do anyway, but let's get one more. I've been going through the Michael Friedberg video log history, if you will, and man, that guy really would make sure that he fully rinsed. Like, he would do something like this like 4 or 5 times. And I never really understood why, and I guess he was just really trying to make sure that there wasn't any soap left before he used something like, you know, alum, for example. And I'm trying to see, I haven't looked at this block in a while. Looks like it's still in one piece. This is my public service announcement for Osma alum. It is, without a doubt, the best alum I've ever used. I'm surprised I didn't try it sooner, honestly. It just really feels like a higher quality alum, if you will. So some definite stinging in those nick areas, but otherwise it's not so bad. We're just going to let that sit on the face for maybe 30 seconds, and then we'll rinse, and then I'll bring you back in when I'm about to apply my aftershave. Stay tuned. Okay, I just rinsed off the alum. It really leaves me feeling kind of squeaky clean after I do that. And again, just, it may not work for you. You know, alum's something that doesn't work for everybody, so I'm not claiming that it will be necessarily awesome for you, but it's maybe worth a try. Try like using it before your usual aftershave regimen 1 week, and then try, you know, without it the next week, and you could see if it has any kind of you know, positive impact on your post-shave, right? Okay, let's use the matching Raconteur splash. This is alcohol based, and it's got maybe calendula extract, stuff like that. It's really not a bad splash, and these were pretty expensive when they were out. You know, I think they were something like close to $30, and that's just because of the, you know, high quality fragrance oils that were used. And so if you aren't a fragrance person, but you really want to experience these APR scents, the splashes are a good way to do it, to be fair. But then again, you know, some of the EDTs, like most of them were like $60, I feel like, which is a steal. And then the more exclusive ones are maybe 75. Anyway, Raconteur splash. Okay, let's do a final rundown. We had a little hackathon here. Again, sorry. The Raconteur soap by APR. I'm going to be using a series of those while the weather's cold and, you know, appropriate for those scents. The Declaration Grooming Washington B3 brush. Love this knot. It's strange that it started shedding, but I honestly almost never hear of Declaration Grooming knots shedding like this. Like, you know, there are brands like Simpson and things like that where you always hear about people having knots that are real shedders, but I really never hear about it with Declaration. So, and then finally the Henson mild aluminum razor. Nice mild razor, constructed well, feels good to use. It is a little bit different than other DEs that you might be accustomed to, and so if you want to go for a unique feel, maybe this is worth checking out. And if it helps bring in some people to this way of shaving, then I think it's great, you know? Yeah. Okay, so I think that does it for us today. Thank you all so much if you made it this far. And this has been HG Shaves, and we'll see you again next time, okay? Goodbye.